Okay, I think we'll get started. So good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for attending today's session. I hope that you learn something new and find it valuable. Very first up, some quick housekeeping. So if you'd like to turn on live captions, there's instructions on the screen of how to do so. We are recording today's session, so everyone that has registered will get a copy of the recording and the deck following on from the session today. Keep an eye out for that in the next few days if you'd like to rewatch it or share anything with a colleague. We've got everybody muted and off camera just due to the volume of registrations that we have, but towards the end we're going to have some time for Q&A, so if you pop your hand up, we will allow individuals to come off mute and interact. So that being said, these sessions do bring the most value when we can have that two-way dialogue, so please feel free to post any questions or comments in the chat throughout, and we'll be keeping an eye on those, and also to reach out afterwards. I'll pop everybody's contact details up on the last slide. So very first up, got our HTG team that are represented on the call today. My name's Lindsay Clemson. I'm the Strategic Partner Manager for HTG. I've been in the industry, the Microsoft channel, for 11 years now, and my role primarily is to build and maintain our Microsoft partnership to enable a better experience for our customers at HTG. Stephen Third has been with the business for 3 years, and he oversees the technical aspects of our customer engagement. So whether that be a professional services project or with one of our managed service customers, he also drives the technical strategy with Microsoft, making sure that it aligns with HTG's overall business goals. And finally, we've got Dave McGuinness, who's our Sales and Marketing Director, overseeing both of those functions. He's ultimately driven by delivering a good service for our customers, for our partners, and growing and maintaining a strong brand in the market. I'm not going to spend too much time on this slide. We do, like I say, have a lot to get through this morning. I just wanted to provide some background to those of you who have not met HTG before. So we were founded in 2005, which gives us more than 20 years of experience in the industry. We previously partnered with the likes of Citrix and VMware, so we still have that in-house knowledge, but we decided to go all in on Microsoft over a year ago. We are a Microsoft Fast Track Ready partner, and that means that we are in the top 1% of partners performing globally with a track record for success, specifically within modern work and security. But you can see from some of the badges on screen, we cover other areas as well, most relevant for today's session, modernised endpoints and Azure Virtual Desktop. We're founded and headquartered in the northeast of England. You can tell from my accent and from others speaking later on, we're not all from there, and we also have customers all shapes and sizes throughout the UK and also Ireland. Earlier this year, we were recognised as a finalist for Secure Productivity in the Microsoft Global Partner of the Year Awards, which attracted over 4,000 entries this year. We're thrilled to have so many of you in the call this morning. Again, a diverse range of industries, sizes represented, but I think the presence represented here today kind of underscores the value and the importance of the discussion. As many of you are probably or hopefully aware, the landscape of virtual desktop infrastructure is rapidly evolving, and with the end of life for Windows 10 almost a year exactly today, the increasing costs associated with renewals from other vendors, it's a critical time, an important time to start having those conversations and to look at the alternatives. We recently had an article published in Housing Technology, so just to put some perspective and some numbers on it, it was showcasing our project with Southern Housing, who successfully migrated from Citrix to AVD in just 12 weeks, saving over £1 million over the course of 3 years. So the goal today is to provide you with insights and guidance on how to navigate this transition smoothly. We have an incredible lineup of speakers this morning who are going to share their expertise, their experiences, and highlighting the benefits of Windows 365, of Azure Virtual Desktop, and then how Nerdio can help to automate and optimize those technologies. Like I say, actively participate in the session. If you can, please ask questions and share your thoughts throughout. I am not going to do the guys a disservice, as I know they'll introduce themselves, but we do have some of the industry's best minds on the call today. I personally am thoroughly looking forward to hearing what they have to say. And with that, I'm going to pass over to Tom to kick us off.
Thank you very much, Lindsay. Let me just share my screen and then we can kick off. Can you just confirm you can see that okay, Lindsay? Okay,
Yep.
good. All right. So welcome everyone. My name's Tom Hickling. I'm a product manager in the Windows Cloud organization inside of Microsoft, responsible for Windows 365 and Azure Virtual Desktop. And you can see all my details there if you wanted to follow me. So in the next 15 minutes or so, I'm just going to do a lightning introduction to Windows 365, a little bit of a comparison and some of the recent releases, and then hand over to my colleague, who you probably all know equally well, Jim, to talk about AVD. So let's just start and have a little bit of a history lesson. It's 1980. Bill Gates, the founder, obviously, of Microsoft, gave a very clear mission to the entirety of Microsoft back at the time. And that was to have a computer on every single desk. We've heard this all a million times. Now, this mission statement was largely achieved some time back, I think you would all agree, particularly in the developed world where there's multiple computers on every desk and we've got them in our pockets now. But our current CEO, a certain Satya Nadella, he joined Microsoft in 1992, and he had a particular issue with this mission statement, which we'll come back to in a second. But we started our journey a long time back in 1985 with the first release of Windows, which you can see looks very clunky back in the day. But that's where we can find our sort of the roots of Windows Cloud today. But our journey got a lot more interesting back in around 1992. So this gentleman, Ed Iacobbuchi, founded Citrix back in 1989, and he did so with a product that was called Multiwin, or multi-user Windows. And then in 1992, he engaged in a 5-year sort of development relationship between Microsoft and Citrix, which went on to create a rich heritage of products, some of which you can see here. So basically, that multi-user Windows turned into Microsoft Terminal Services, which has evolved over the decades, as well as various releases of Windows Server and Windows Client, as well as obviously the Citrix products. So that sort of rich heritage of products has continued over that sort of interim 30 years or so. I mentioned Satya had an issue with that mission statement of Bill Gates, and his issue with that statement was that it was very temporary, i.e. there would come a time when there would be a desktop on every single desk, particularly in the developed world, which obviously he was proven correct because we did achieve that. Which is why he, in February 2014, introduced a new mission statement, which is just about empowering people, organizations to achieve more. So what does that mean then for our organization inside of Microsoft, the Windows Cloud org? Well, it really comes down to this statement. It's really just all about the apps. This is about how we as an organization make your customers and your users successful and able to achieve more by using the applications they need to get their day job done. So we're obviously here talking about Windows, and we will talk in a bit more detail in a minute, but we recognize that Windows is just a conduit to what makes end users productive and achieve more. So this is about us making you and your customers more successful by utilizing Windows as that conduit to the apps. Which brings us to this, which is how we enable this. And there's 3 main mechanisms, 2 of which we're going to talk about. Firstly is Windows on a physical device. That's all good. But we're going to talk about Cloud VDI and Cloud PC. Those 2 capabilities are brought by those 2 products, obviously. So Windows 365 drives Cloud PC being the category, Windows 365 being the product. And then Cloud VDI is delivered via Azure Virtual Desktop. Let's just take a minute to talk about what is in these names. These names have been deliberately chosen to demonstrate exactly what these 2 products provide. So Cloud VDI delivered via Azure Virtual Desktop, and I'll just stress the word Azure there. This is what AVD provides, is all of the benefits of Azure, the public cloud, to your VDI use case. So it's all of the things that you see there, all of the T's basically, or the ETs. So the scalability, resiliency, flexibility, the availability, capacity, the inbuilt security, and then finally the choice of a long list of Azure regions, currently around about 17 growing, and hundreds of different VM sizes. All of this bundled together as a service to deliver your existing traditional VDI use cases. Whereas Cloud PC is something different, deliberately named to represent that this is still a PC. It's a PC, it just so happens to be located in the cloud rather than on your desk. So if it looks like a PC, if it behaves like a PC, it is a PC. Now that doesn't mean that Windows 365 does not have the benefits of Azure. It obviously does, because it's a VM that runs in Azure. It's just provided as a service via our organization in Microsoft. And I won't go into any more detail around this, but this is kind of the high level differentiation between the two products. And just, I suppose, a few things to call out is the operating system support. So Windows 365 is Windows client only, so Windows 11 and Windows 10. Obviously, that's going end of life shortly. AVD delivers Windows Server and the ability for multi-session across Windows Server and Windows client operating systems. And AVD is managed by the Azure portal, whereas Windows 365 is done via Intune. AVD is priced based upon what you consume, so it's all fixed price but consumption based, whereas Windows 365 is a fixed price per user per month. So it's good for those organizations that want fixed pricing. Which brings us really to here of our two main products, obviously AVD and Windows 365. And our partner ecosystem has obviously grown beyond Citrix as we started at the beginning. Obviously still does include Citrix, but obviously Omnissa, Anywhere, and our great partner Nerdio. So which product should you choose? Maybe it's one, maybe it's both. But it's really comes down to this. It's all about your use cases, and you know your use cases better than anybody ever could at Microsoft. So it's all about aligning which of these two products best fits with your use cases. And like I said, it might be that there's an opportunity for both of these products within your organization or within your customer's organization. But let's just take it very, very simplistically. If you recognize any of these products on here, then, and you've deployed those, then that typically means that you have needed the flexibility and the control that these products provide to you in the traditional VDI use cases. That suggests that Azure Virtual Desktop might be the better fit for you going forward. But however, the real world is obviously not quite that simple. And just as an example of that, I'm guessing there's not very many of you out there that have deployed Exchange Server in the last 5 years or so. And that's simply because as an industry, we've moved away from the do-it-yourself email sort of capability of partner organizations or IT departments going and installing Exchange Server on a physical server. We now just consume email as a service from something like Exchange Online, which is part of Office 365, or something like G Suite from Google. So the real point here is we've moved away from this old traditional way of deploying things to just consuming this as a service. Windows 365 is going to do for Windows what Exchange Online has done for the whole email enterprise. So that's much more of a paradigm shift for you to think about rather than just a traditional migration of on-prem VDI to cloud VDI. So something that you should definitely think seriously about and what that means for your organization. So just to wrap up the comparison. So Azure Virtual Desktop gives you far more control, but it is more complex. Windows 365 is designed to be simple, but with that simplicity, you lose an element of control. AVD, you or the customer manages all of the deployment, the subscriptions, the Azure capacity. Windows 365, that's provided as a service. You get the full choice of Azure regions and VM sizes with AVD. That's reduced inside of Windows 365, although that will continue to grow over time. AVD requires traditional VDI admins to keep the system fed and watered, We're typically seeing that that's a reducing number of experts out there, whereas Windows 365, you need minimal skills to go and manage a Windows 365 deployment. And it kind of goes on to what do your customers want to do? Do you want to maintain a VDI service and have a team to maintain that? Or do you want to maybe transition those people off to higher value add services? And what's your view on costs? So Azure Virtual Desktop gives you the ability to potentially reduce your costs by using all of the features of AVD and Azure, like auto scaling, where we will stop charging you the minute or the second, in fact, that the virtual machines are deallocated? Or would you rather have a known fixed price based upon the number of licenses you've purchased every single month? So it's really the decision whether you want the ability to go for a consumption-based service, or you want the security of a fixed price known per user per month. And what do the analysts out there think about these two products? Well, this was the inaugural Magic Quadrant for DAS, released in 2023. You'll see Microsoft is up at the top right. And then recently, the 2024 version was released, where we've moved slightly further to the right. And that's really based upon the holistic solution that both AVD and Windows 365 fit into. So obviously the integration with a public cloud being Azure, obviously, Microsoft 365, the Intune integration, as well as what is called out further down, and it sometimes gets lost in the details, is our ability to integrate with other partners. So you'll notice that Citrix and Omnissa are the second and third position in both of those Magic Quadrants. Our products, both AVD and Windows 365, integrate directly with both Omnissa and Citrix, and now HP Anywhere, and also Nerdio. And that's one of the reasons why Microsoft was shifted slightly to the right, was that ability to integrate with partner solutions that are also in that top right quadrant as well. IDC, as you would imagine, agree with them. So you'll see the same partners, same organizations, same vendors at pretty much the same spots. So with the remaining few minutes, I'm just going to go through some of the recent releases in Windows 365. Starting with, we talked about integration with partners. We've recently gone into public preview in April for our integration with HP Anywhere. So today you can integrate it with Citrix Omnissa, as I mentioned earlier, and that allows you to go to those vendors' portals to integrate with Windows 365. Now you can do exactly the same thing with HP Anywhere. So that means that your end users can make use of the HP Anywhere client, so they've got the same user experience, and then use the Teradici protocol to get through to their Windows 365 VMs. We recently released an integration with another Azure service. So this kind of goes back to that Magic Quadrant where we're talking about integration with other Microsoft products. This is an existing Azure product called Purview, which has this feature called Forensic Evidence. Windows 365 is now directly integrated with Forensic Evidence. And what Forensic Evidence gives you is the ability to monitor potentially risky end user behavior. So the example that we typically use is you can set a policy that detects end users copying health data. So if you're working in a hospital or somewhere like that, you might have some health records. If an end user was copying that data and then trying to save that data to OneDrive, for example, the policy can detect that behavior and then start recording the session. Those sessions can then be viewed later so that you're aware of what the situation was and then can mitigate that, that potential security risk. We've recently released GPU support for Windows 365. So we've now got 3 GPU SKUs, so standard, super, and max. And they range from 4 vCPUs, 16 gig of RAM with 8 gig of video RAM, all the way up to 16 vCPUs, 110 gig of RAM and 16 gig of video RAM. So this enables end users who have a requirement for visualization, graphics processing, AI workloads, the ability to make use of GPUs inside of Windows 365. One of the other recent releases was MAM support. So what this enables you to do is to be able to set policies for the Windows 365 and AVD clients, so the Windows app or the remote desktop client via an Intune app configuration policy, and then with that be able to apply granular policy for your end users. So the ability to set different policies for different sets of users on the same host pool in the case of AVD, or to your cloud PCs. So you can have different granular sets of policies for the same set of users to the same set of virtual machines. So this then enables use cases like bring your own devices, the ability to integrate with other organizations, so contractors potentially, as well as just applying this upon users within your own organization. So that looks like this. So in Intune, you would just go and create there's two policies you need to create: an app configuration policy and an app protection policy. The protection policy defines the apps that are going to be used, so the client applications, and then the configuration policies go and specify the settings that you want, which is the bottom right there. And that's just the example we use there is devices being redirected into your session. And then you would integrate that with a conditional access policy, which would specify the app configuration policy to then bring all of that together so that granular control is being applied as the users sign into the service. I'm rapidly running out of time, so I'm just going to very quickly just mention, without going into any details, other recent releases. So Windows 365 has released a cross-region disaster recovery capability. We synchronize the disk from one region to another to enable you to recover in the event of a disaster to a temporary VM in the additional region. And we've recently released a new version of Teams integration across Windows 365 and AVD. This brings much better voice and video integration, as well as it's an evergreen service now. So no longer do you need to manage multiple different components. We support all of that inside of the product. So I'm going to pause there. I'm slightly over time. I'm going to hand over now to Jim, who's going to talk more about AVD. I'll be on the call, happy to answer any questions in the chat if you have them. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Tom. I'm just going to share my screen. Hopefully, if you could just let me know when you can see that.
Yep, I can see it.
Yep.
Perfect. So thank you very much to my colleague Tom. He did the Windows 365. I'm going to do the AVD side of the house. We both work on both, so we're not. We could have done each other's slides if you want. So I'm also a product manager in the Windows Cloud team. You can find me in all the usual places, but particularly on YouTube and GitHub for code and instructional videos. Given the time, we'll go reasonably quickly. So Azure Extended Zones. These are smaller versions of Azure data centers which sit inside urban areas where there wouldn't usually be the space to fit a data center. So it reduces the latency, increases your chance of having a Azure zone within your geographical area for data residency users. Now, you do need to register to get access to these extended zones. There is a PowerShell command. So these are changing really quick. So, from week to week, there's new extended zones coming out. There is a PowerShell command. You can go and check where all the extended zones are. If one is going to be useful to you, you can then register for that extended zone, and then you can go and use that extended zone. There is a subset of Azure services, so you need to check which ones are in the extended zone. Contextual client device redirection. This used to be on a host pool level, but now from Intune, you can now configure this on a per user level, which is how everybody kind of wanted to do it. You can take all of the devices that are on the endpoint, and depending on what policies you want to apply, whether you want to redirect, it says client device. Now, people think of drives, but there's also all kinds of stuff you can prevent redirection. COM ports, audio, cameras, location. So you can control all of those factors as well as contextual information. This is a big one. So unidirectional clipboard. So you wouldn't think that this would be such a big deal for customers, but we got so much feedback that this was something that people were really wanted from us. So I think we did a really good job of putting this into our offering. And one of the nicest thing is not only can you control the direction of data, but you can also control the type of data that is being transferred from client to server and server to client. You can see the list on the slide in the bottom left. There's a little demo. So, oh, that wasn't, I did mute that previously. Oh, let's do mute thing. There we go. So, effectively, local to cloud, where we don't want copy and paste, so we have disabled copy and paste. And for the demo for back cloud to local, now this is of course much more important. So if your local device is an unmanaged device, you might not want to be able to let people copy data to an unmanaged device, effectively exfiltrating data from your organization. It's really good to be able to consider the security consequences of this and also the data types that you want to control. Now, for the client, how do you access those services, whether it's Windows 365 or Azure Virtual Desktop, and basically anything with a remote access? Now there is one single app that will allow your client access across any of our services. So whether it's Cloud PC, whether it's Azure Virtual Desktop, it does not matter. Whether it's desktops, whether it's apps, it does not matter. The brand new client for Windows is MSX with all of the security enhancements that that format gives you. But of course, we have clients for all of the other major OSs as well. This is a prettier, more secure, more consistent user experience. If you're not already using the Windows app, I would get onto it as soon as possible. So I have completely stopped using the old client, and I only use the Windows app now. Multiple users, multiple environments. You can do whatever not quite whatever you like, but it also integrates with the start menu. You can pin stuff to the taskbar. We've got a huge amount of work continue to improve the experience around the Windows app. So right now, there are some ways like snapping to custom zones in Windows where, if you're on a remote app, it doesn't quite look like local. We're going to make it so you don't, even if you've got the Windows app there, you won't be able to tell that you're on a remote app compared to a locally installed app. So that is the direction of travel for our client. Tom mentioned autoscale earlier in terms of being able to save some money. It's a great feature. So autoscale will be able to bring back the number of VMs that you have in your host pools and turn them off and deallocate them out of your subscription, so that you're only paying for the storage that those VMs sit on. Now, you can also combine this with Start VM on Connect for your more persistent VMs, so that you can have those off or hibernate, as we'll get onto in the next slide, and you can start that VM whenever your user connects, so that if it's a rarely used or a specific use case VM, then you can only pay. You can make sure you only pay for that usage, essentially allowing you to save a huge amount of visual consumption. Hibernate and resume. So effectively, how does Hibernate work? Well, you save the disk, save the memory to disk, and then you turn off the machine. That is now available in Azure. So as AVD, we now use that new Hibernate feature, and we can do combine that with autoscale for personal host pools, so you can hibernate your VMs, and you don't pay for your VMs because they are deallocated when they're hibernated. So again, you're just paying for the storage on those hibernated VMs. You can set it either to disconnect or log off, and you can really take the cost out of your environment by taking advantage of these new features. One that's very close to my heart is we completely rewrote the app attach feature. So now you can attach an application to any VM in your environment, and you can also filter that by user. So when a user logs on, we check, is that app allowed to run on that VM? And is that user allowed to run that app? If you pass both those tests, then the user just gets the app. Support for both Entra ID and hybrid. We've just finished the public preview, private preview, sorry, for supporting AppV packages under this. This is a migration plan to help you move to the new MSX format. So if you're a heavy user of our AppV product, which goes end of life in April 2026, we want you to have the confidence to move into Azure Virtual Desktop with your existing AppV packages, and then gradually you can move those over one by one to MSX as you need to. You can even directly upgrade the assignments for the VMs and the users from AppV into MSX. I'm not saying you can upgrade the packages, although there is a script to do that, but I'm not guaranteeing that. But by doing this for your AppV infrastructure, you can actually get rid of all of your server backend. So all of your application servers, delivery servers, etc., for AppV, all of that is now in the Azure Virtual Desktop control plane. This one I heard so much feedback. So this was really driven by customers and partners giving us some really specific feedback, which was the conditional access policy. They wanted it to be every single time a user logged on. So previously it was the lowest threshold you could set was 60 minutes. So if you log back on within that 60-minute window, then you wouldn't be asked for your MFA if you set that up, or whatever your access policy was. Now, after listening to customers, it's every time. So you can, for your secure environments, and you can make sure that you are enforcing the conditional access policy at every single logon. Great for secure environments. Obviously, asking for MFA every single time can be a bit of a pain for some people. So maybe make sure that you're turning it on in the right for the right reasons. RDP short path. So this is directly taking traffic from that endpoint, from where you're running the Windows app, directly to the VM. Now, we can now configure RDP short path for managed networks and public networks. We can also do that via PowerShell. So that's just a quick run through some of the major changes for Azure Virtual Desktop. There have been a lot of smaller ones as well over the last few months. I think that I'm just about brought us back on time. So I'm going to hand over to back to Lindsay.
Thanks, Jim, and thanks, Tom. Just want to pause there, check if there's any questions before. I think they've all been answered in the chat so far. Before
Yes.
we hand over to Gavin.
No
All good.
additional ones that haven't been answered, so.
Fab. Thank you. Right. Gavin, we'll pass over to you. Thank you.
Super. Thanks, Lindsay. Thanks, Jim. Just let me know when you folks can see my screen.
Yep.
Does that look okay?
All
Yep,
good.
perfect.
Yep,
Okay,
thank you.
super. Fantastic. So thanks so much, Tom. Thanks so much, Jim, taking us through kind of Windows 365, AVD, and where both of those products are going. So my name is Gavin Connolly. I'm Field CTO from Nerdio. A lot of customers are choosing to manage both of those technologies, AVD and Windows 365, via Nerdio. So I'm going to take 15 minutes or so to tell you why that is. So here at Nerdio, we're all about helping you take Windows to the cloud. So we partner closely with Microsoft, focusing on the technologies that you see on the right-hand side. And it'd be interesting to get Tom and Jim's view on this. But for me in the field, I'm seeing more and more convergence of the technologies, and that's happening around Intune. More and more organizations are starting to leverage Intune to manage AVD. Intune is the way to manage Windows 365 and applications as well, obviously, and applications is key to everything that we do. So the idea with Nerdio is that you can manage all of that in kind of one place. That includes AVD on Stack HCI as well. We do work very closely with Microsoft. We were the America's Partner of the Year for Marketplace in the US. So we were very happy to receive that earlier this year. We are all about helping you get up and running quicker, understand your costs in these different technologies and help you to optimize those costs. And the most important one is to just reduce that complexity, simplify the management, automate where possible, and bring everything in, under one roof, so to speak. And both Tom and Jim touched on the new Windows app, and I saw some comments on the chat. What Microsoft has done around the Windows app has been phenomenal, and it's great to hear Jim say that there's going to be further enhancements and developments to that. The idea is that Microsoft have brought it all in under one single end user experience, whether you're connecting to a Windows 365 desktop, an AVD remote app, or a single session desktop, or a multi-session desktop, even connecting to an old RDS farm. You can do it all from the Windows application. And that's where kind of Nerdio wants to do the same thing, but for you, the administrator. So bring it into one simple, seamless management console to manage everything from one place easily, where everything is 3 to 5 clicks away. So we're really in the business of making things easy for you to manage. And this is what it looks like here. So this is the Nerdio Manager for Enterprise dashboard. This is what Nerdio essentially is. It's an Azure web app. It's a platform as a service. It's deployed into customers, tenants, and subscriptions. So you manage the Nerdio app itself, and then Nerdio acts as the alternative user interface to the Azure portal and to the Intune portal as well. The benefits of that, particularly for larger customers, is that if you are offloading some of that work to third parties or contractors or to service integrators, you can give them access, all wrapped in granular role-based access control to the Nerdio portal, rather than giving them the keys to the kingdom to the Azure portal and the Intune portal. So it's a simplified management experience, also a more secure management experience. So we can manage everything from your applications to your images to the host pools themselves, all your different policies. We can even manage your physical endpoints. And as we see, Microsoft pushing towards this mantra of Windows in the cloud, it really will blur the lines of physical endpoints and virtual or cloud endpoints. That all is going to kind of come together, and that's where Nerdio can be that one-stop shop to manage it all. And everything that we do is policy driven. We can help you with your Intune policies, whether that be compliance policies, conditional access policies, Windows 365 provisioning policies, everything we can do all from the Nerdio portal. And we kind of do that in 3 different buckets, particularly for AVD. If we focus there for a moment, we can help to optimize and scale and cost manage that environment. So helping you understand your compute and storage costs, and then giving you the tools to get as much value as possible and squeeze that down as much as possible for that kind of consumption spend. Think of Nerdio in that instance as your thermostat that's going to allow you to turn up and down the heating of your virtual desktop environment from an AVD perspective. Also adding in resiliency and risk mitigation, all around kind of automating OS patching and patch Tuesday, giving you reliability and stability, enhancing your capacity capabilities from an AVD perspective, as well as adding in or making it super simple to enable things like disaster recovery and zone redundancy. And then from a simplification perspective, it's helping you with application deployment. We can integrate with all sorts of application repositories that I'll talk about in a few moments, making the image management and image updates seamless, making the re-imaging of a host pool easy and automated, in fact. So super easy to manage. We do all this with no agent. We don't need an agent on the VM. We don't need a client on the endpoint. We just need the Nerdio app deployed into your tenant and subscription. It's a web app, and it then talks via APIs to all of the components that make up your virtual desktop. Similarly then for Windows 365 and physical endpoints, it's all about that ease of management, giving you control over the provisioning policies. The same images that you manage for AVD, you can manage for your Windows 365 desktop as well. A big part of what we're doing is in the policy space, making it super easy to manage those policies, resolve conflicts with those policies, back up and recover those policies. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we go, as well as we're building out towards more reporting, more insights, more feedback, compliance reporting, and so on. Very quickly, just to call out 2 case studies that are public. We have Sage, who have a really good story about migrating from their traditional vendor across to, for this one, it was AVD and Nerdio, and they have some very interesting figures and numbers on their cost savings, which is very interesting. I'll share that one in the chat. We also had Vanquis Bank, who had a similar story. For them, it was all around their kind of business as usual, kind of day 2 operations, and making sure that it was super easy and seamless and kind of carry over their skill set from where they were to where they wanted to get to. I'll share some of these stories in the chat as we go. So how does it all work? So as I mentioned, Nerdio is deployed into your tenant and subscription. It's deployed exclusively from the marketplace. It's also billed exclusively through the marketplace. So Nerdio is just another third-party line item on your Azure bill. It's made up of an app service, a key vault, an SQL database, some automation accounts, a log analytics workbook, app insights, and a few other elements. All of that then leverages graph APIs to talk to things like your subscription, your identity, your host pools and resource groups, your virtual networks, and so on. And then we, Nerdio, the company, don't get to see any of that information. That's your application. It sits in your environment. That application does pass out some telemetry around license usage and feature usage, just for our own kind of improvement process and for our billing function. So how we kind of think about this is that we can help you with that deployment, getting you up and running faster. We have a stat from Microsoft. We can get you up and running 160% faster than using the Microsoft Fast Start service. That was a stat that was given to us by Microsoft. So we can get you up and running super quickly, super easily, helping you with that initial image creation, application deployment, automation, scripting. Then the scaling. Nerdio has the best-in-class auto scaling in the market. We can scale based on multiple triggers, multiple schedules. We have things like rolling drain mode to help you get those machines turned off faster. We also have a disk swapping feature that lets you swap the disks from premium SSD down to standard HDD when the machines are off, to again help you save on costs. A bit like what Jim was talking about with the hibernation for the single session. This can help you with the multi-session with similar cost savings. So we really have the best in class scaling capability. It's all about helping you get those machines drained faster and turned off quicker. Then the day-to-day operations I've mentioned already, we make it super easy to do things like resizing the VM, auto healing machines that are having issues. You know, if the AVD agent is having issues, for example, we can auto heal those. We have user self-service as well, which is a really popular feature for the developer use case and you know, the kind of power user use case. What it allows the end users to do is go in and resize their machine, so give themselves a bigger machine temporarily under the full control of the admin teams. It also allows them to do things like self-install applications, self-run scripts, all that are predefined and kind of collated by the admin teams. And we also have a full REST API for integrations with things like ServiceNow or monitoring solutions, or even things like Power Apps. So full REST API that you can take advantage of there as well. Optimization is key. We have a right sizing capability in our advisor suite where it will tell you if you've overspec'd or underspec'd your machines. We've also just released as well auto scale insights, which can really help you fine tune when you're turning those machines on and off to make sure that you have the perfect balance of machines available when your users need it, and that you're not leaving your machines running longer than they need to. So really important to be right sizing and optimizing that environment. And then finally, cost attribution. It's so important, particularly if you're transitioning from traditional on-prem VDI into cloud. You know, there's almost a mindset shift. You need to be much more FinOps minded, and we have a per user cost attribution breakdown to let you really break down the costs of the compute and storage at a granular level. So all super important. And then we have Nerdio Unified Application Management, which allows you to plug in different application repositories, whether that's a public Winget store, the Microsoft Store, or you can have your own private Winget, plug in SCCM or Intune or AppAttach, which Jim talked about. Or we also have this concept of shell apps for more granular scripted installs. Plug those into Nerdio, and then Nerdio can handle the deployment and updates of those applications onto your master images, Windows physical endpoints, AVD virtual machines, or Windows 365 Cloud PC. It's that one-stop shop for managing all your applications. And then into Intune and Windows 365, we help with that day one provisioning, but then from a day two perspective, we can help with that application delivery, image management, helping you to troubleshoot, a one-stop kind of high-level view of your compliance, helping you with those update rollouts and those update rings, and then helping you with that endpoint management, seeing all of your endpoints, physical or virtual, from one single easy dashboard. We've introduced policy configuration conflicts, where we can see if there's multiple policies containing the same setting with different or conflicting values, and we can see where that's hitting in targets to help you resolve that, make it super simple. We also have policy comparison capabilities as well. We also have backup and recovery, which helps you with policy change tracking and logging. It also helps you to back up and recover those policies, super seamless. We will soon release auto backup for your Intune policy. So whenever somebody makes a change, we auto back up the previous version. And then, as I said, we can do policy change and comparison capabilities as well. You can see all the different types of policies there on the screen, whether that be compliance, whether that be configuration, applications, and so on. And just as a high level, the benefits in Nerdio there. So just a bit of a summary: cost insight and reporting, image management, environment right sizing, capacity and DR mitigation, app management, policy management. We've even introduced an AI assistant into our tool, support for HCI stack, support to manage your endpoints, and that end user self-service. So hopefully that has given you a bit of a flavor for why many customers are choosing to manage both of these technologies all with one kind of single management pane, single pane of glass. Thanks everybody. I hope that was useful.
Thank you.
Sorry, we just had one question about monitoring the productivity of users. Is that something that is a capability?
So we are about to release some interesting reporting capability. But if you're looking to monitor specific employee experience, we've also recently announced a partnership with ControlUp, and there's commercial benefits to buying the two products together at the moment. So if you want more information on that, please reach out. I've also just going to pop into the chat our modeling tool to help you model some of the costs of cost savings that Nerdio can help you with for AVD, and I've also included that Sage case study that you can take away and read yourself.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Dan, I've taken you off mic. Did that answer your question? Is there anything you want to?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Gavin. So I thought Nerdio and ControlUp were competitors. In this case, you guys are together?
Yeah, we're definitely not competitors. No, Dan, we're definitely not competitors. Yeah, we're working together. So there's a current opportunity if you're buying both solutions together. There's a 40% discount off both. So it's a good time to invest in both solutions if you're looking to do so.
Yep, good. Thanks.
Amazing. Has anybody else got any questions for the chat, or if you pop your hand up, I can allow mics. Silence. I know that you touched on this earlier. The use case for using both Windows 365 and AVD is something that we have spoken to a couple of different customers about, for using Windows 365 for power users, for example, and an AVD for the majority. But I've not actually seen it in action. Is there any thoughts around? Have you seen that in real life? Does it work?
Yeah, absolutely, Lindsay. Jim, jump in.
No worries. Yeah, so we actually see quite a lot of organizations using both products. Whether they use sort of Windows 365 as their main, and then for say call centers they're using AVD because they can take advantage of multi-session and remote app, or the other way around, where say a big financial where most of their users are knowledge workers and they've done AVD for their knowledge workers, and they have contractors and they want to be able to control the spend and make sure that they have that subscription model for contractors. So you see it both ways. So you see it mainly AVD with a bit of Windows 365, or mainly Windows 365 with a bit of AVD. But yeah, especially if you're using Intune to control the Windows part of both solutions, then yeah, it works really well together. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, definitely. Gavin, you?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah,
I was going to say, the organization here in Ireland that's doing exactly that. That's kind of heavier Windows 365, and then AVD was for kind of some of the nuanced use cases, and then lots of customers who is the flip of that, where they're using AVD in the main, but Windows 365 is for, as Jim said, something like their developers or their third-party contractors, etc. So yeah, definitely seeing a blend and a mix. And as Jim said, if you're managing Intune for both, and I'm starting to see more and more of that, it makes it super simple. And that's why we focused on managing all three of those technologies from an Nerdio perspective. Yeah, 100%.
Fab. Any final questions in the chat, or like I say, we can allow people off mute to have a chat. Okay. Thank you so much again for everyone's time. Thank you so much to the presenters. I know it was a big ask. One more question in the chat, sorry. Windows 11 Enterprise multi-session VMs, do I need to license the OS separately?
So every Windows version, regardless of the version, needs to be licensed ultimately. So you will need to have that license within your organization, and there's various mechanisms of having that. The Windows 365 includes obviously the license. With AVD, then obviously you would need to have that licensing as part of your organization anyway. So most customers who are using AVD already have the correct licensing in place via other mechanisms. But ultimately, yes, the answer is you need to license it.
Can I just add one element to that, Tom, is one saving that you do have though by using that Windows 10 or 11 multi-session is you no longer need your RDS CAL licensing, which you may have been using for multi-session server OS on-prem. So that's a big benefit again.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. Good point.
Teamwork. Okay. Yeah, like I said, the everyone's contact details are on screen. I was in the middle of saying there, sorry. The presenters, I asked to cram a lot of information into that hour, so very much appreciated. Some of the badges that we had up at the start of today's session allow us into certain Microsoft programs. There's funding for customers of certain sizes and different eligibility criteria. If you're thinking about having those conversations, please get in touch, and we'll see what we can leverage in terms of Microsoft support for those conversations. Otherwise, thank you again, and we'll get those recordings out in the next couple of days. Thanks very much, guys.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thanks all.